in a big way against the Mets yesterday. 13-1, the final in Atlanta. 3 more games remaining this week, and a 4.5-game lead still for New York over the Atlanta Braves for that top spot in the National League East. And we will see, at least it seems right now, 3 teams from the NL East in the National League playoff picture. How many teams out of the American League East will we see in the AL playoff picture? Well, right now, still in the top spot in that American League East is the New York Yankees. They hold a 10-game lead over both the Rays and the Blue Jays. But things are not necessarily going well for the Pinstripes at this moment. Shut out for the second straight game yesterday, back up in the Bronx, losing to the Rays 4-0. The Yankees have now lost 5 of their last 6 games, 10 of their last 12, and they have been booked as a favorite in all 12 of these games on this poor stretch. And the Yanks, again, have been shut out for 2 straight games, 3 of their last 6 games. And in that 6-game span, the Pinstripes have only been able to muster up 7 runs of offensive production. Again, the Yankees still hold a 10-game lead in the American League East. They have built that very big cushion in the divisional standings over the Rays and the Blue Jays, who now occupy 2 of those 3 American League Wild Card spots, and we'll get to the battle for that 3rd and final spot among another team in the American League East, the Baltimore Orioles. But from the big picture perspective of trying to win an American League pennant, the Yankees now trail the Astros by 2.5 games for the best record in the American League, yet maintain that favored number to win the AL pennant. Plus 160 on the Yankees, 15 cents ahead of the Houston Astros at plus 175. And as you can see there from those numbers for the American League pennant, still a distinction among those top 2 teams in the American League, the Yankees and the Astros ahead of the rest. We'll continue to go around Major League Baseball. The Diamond Dash is up next here on the morning after. Kevin Walsh gets in the mix. Stay with us.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play less.
Aaron Rodgers and
the morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. We saw movement in the marketplace like Orlando.
Fantasy
Magic.
sports
the Cleveland
today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to
CBG,
coast.
that's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind
decisions.
of bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live all access.
I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take a 4.5.
In-game live, prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live, overtime.
All done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. Diamond Bets.
Dodgers heading into the weekend, minus 160. This morning, when you wake up bright and early and you get the crust out of your eye, it's plus 155. The Mets were plus 220 after Jacob deGrom's 1-0 win yesterday, plus 200. So the Mets are getting ever closer here, my friend, to this National League number. It's a 3-team race for the National League crown. It's the Dodgers, it's the Mets, it's the Braves. What's fascinating to me is that the Brewers are still plus 1,400 and the Cardinals are plus 15.
Only on Sports Grid. Pharrell coast to coast.
They're not going to start him. So if he comes in, hypothetically, let's say things don't go well and you're at the halfway point, week 8, week 9, you start playing him. I don't believe you can win Rookie of the Year starting halfway through. That kid, Pickens, if they throw him the ball enough, he has looked phenomenally well over any kid I've seen yet.
The Sports Grid Network.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports with your daily numbers game. Well, California went from one of those states that no way are we going to have gambling of any kind, no casino sponsorships, no revenue of at all except for Indian gaming, which is grandfathered in. Now, Prop 26 on the ballot in November allows for gaming on Indian reservations and 4 other designated casinos. Prop 27, which is also on the ballot in November, funded by FanDuel, DraftKings, and all of the big boys. Dollars for homeless, for infrastructure, and otherwise, but also allows betting in the normal way across the state. Both may be passing. Some say it'll dilute the support if you have to choose. But at the end of the day, it is looking like California, here we come, for gaming, a tremendous expenditure by the big boys, and also the teams, including Major League Baseball, stepping out supporting Prop 27.
Back right here on the morning after on Sports Grid and Sirius XM Channel 159. The Diamond Dash, a very creative name to describe our daily review of Major League Baseball. A creative guy joins us now on the show here on TMA. It's all K-Dubs, Kevin Walsh, to go through the bigs. Then we'll talk some National Football League in this preseason and throughout training camp. And then the debut of the preseason, Ben's top 10 in college football with two great college football minds going back and forth. Okay, Dubs, a pleasure as always to have you here on a Tuesday program of the morning after.
No doubt about it. Tang is in the air. You can feel it all around this show, this network. Things are feeling good, man. Football season is approaching, but baseball's still delivering plenty for us to sink our teeth into.
Absolutely so. This postseason push, about 45 games left of this home stretch of Major League Baseball. And right now, Kev, it is a fascinating race to follow in the American League Wild Card because we have three teams from the American League East, not mentioning the Yankees, who still own the top spot in that division by 10 games, battling for 3 wild card spots alongside the Seattle Mariners. And for that third and final spot, the Baltimore Orioles are still very much in play. The O's, with a road victory yesterday up in the Great White North, knocking off the Toronto Blue Jays 7-3. So Baltimore, Kevin, still very much in the mix right now for an American League wild card spot. Do you believe the O's have the staying power to get it done?
Cross the finish line is one thing, but it's become very, very clear that they are going to be in this race all the way until the end, which is part of the reason why I can't say I can't believe, but I'm still bothered by the fact that they traded off Trey Mancini there, right?
Yep.
Everything that he meant to that organization and that organization meant to him, it was a Baltimore group that was never going to be buyers, and that was okay. But is the prospect return for Trey Mancini going to really matter in the long run for Baltimore? Or would Mancini have been there potentially helping this team get to the postseason and then likely what? Re-signing and staying in Baltimore for the long term and a better outcome? I absolutely think so. The thing about the Orioles at this point, sitting a game and a half back of not just Toronto but Tampa Bay, is they have to have a world of belief about them. Because it's not as if the Orioles have randomly stumbled into a block of 30 games where they're exclusively playing the Washington Nationals and Oakland Athletics. I feel like they play the Blue Jays every night and they beat the Blue Jays every night. This team is just continuing to perform, and it really is awesome to see.
And the Orioles right now at 65-1 have the longest odds out of those 6 teams in the hunt for the 3 wild card spots. But just last week, it was 130-1. So we have seen positive market movement in favor of Baltimore, cutting that price in half. And those 6 teams that we showed you, and we'll continue the discussion up here, all within 2.5 games of one another for the 3 wild card spots in the American League, including the Seattle Mariners, who right now currently occupy the top spot, a half-game advantage over the Rays and the Blue Jays. Tampa beating New York. The Yankees up in the Bronx last night 4-0. They have now won 3 straight games, tied with the Blue Jays for the same record at the moment. The White Sox, Kevin, now 2 games out of the American League wild card chase and also just 2 games behind the Cleveland Guardians for the top spot in the American League Central. The White Sox have won 4 games. Is it now or never for Chicago, which feels like we've been saying that for the last month and a half?
Well, that's the issue, right? I can't tell you it's now or never because I wanted to say that months ago, and that was with the White Sox chasing Minnesota, and now the Guardians are the favorite.
Yep.
The other day, flipped to a flash, I think, a minus price, in fact, on their AL Central odds at one point, but it's kind of tightened up here a little bit now with everything. I think tonight is a really big game for my outlook on the Chicago White Sox. I know some people might think that's a little unfair because they're going up against the AL Cy Young favorite in Justin Verlander, but the second choice, and not all too far behind, is Dylan Cease. You're at home, coming off of a nice rally last night in the bottom of that 8th inning to ultimately win a game against the Astros here. You've won 4 in a row. You need to continue to apply a pressure because you're not just chasing the Guardians, but one of those wild card spots is also up for grabs. That is the thing. We look at the Central as this downtrodden division, but they have 3 teams that are all in the mix here for the wild card spots as well as the division. So I look at this White Sox team here tonight, a plus price at home. I want to see what this looks like up against an ace level in Justin Verlander in your own ballpark with your ace throwing. This feels like, to me, the biggest game the White Sox will have played all season long.
And this might be that now or never point. If you want to prove, that being the White Sox, that you are a contender for the American League postseason, this is October baseball. It's your best versus their best. Go out and win a baseball game, especially at home. Right now, live on the FanDuel Sportsbook, Dylan Cease and the Southsiders, plus 108 as the home underdogs. Justin Verlander and the Astros, a minus 126 favorite. They are 1-2. Verlander, the favorite in the American League Cy Young Award market, and Dylan Cease, the second best price. But about 2 months ago, Dylan Cease was 18-1. He has gone on an absolute tear. More from that game a little bit later on. But, Kev, we're going to follow the American League Central and those odds the rest of the way because we see daily updates, not just in the standings, but the market. You mentioned it. The Guardians yesterday were minus 105. It's now plus 120, and only half a game was taken off their lead over both the Twins and the White Sox, and Chicago now only 50 cents behind at plus 170. And again, as it pertains to those American League Wild Card standings, it felt like for a while, Kev, the only team out of the Central that would get into the AL playoff picture would be whoever won this division. Not necessarily. Both the Twins and the White Sox just 2 games out, and according to the odds, the White Sox have the best odds to win the American League out of this crop behind Toronto and Seattle, but at least from the American League Central. So that's how things stand in the wild card race. But, Kevin, we're talking about it. 3 teams right now, outside of the Yankees, out of the American League East, in contention to make the American League postseason picture. When you look to the other side of things, in the National League West, the Dodgers and the Padres, formidable sides. 3 teams out of the National League East could certainly be in that NL postseason as well. So when you look at a group, Kevin, the best division in baseball right now, who do you think gets that bid?
Ooh, interesting. I think it still has to be the American League East, though, all in all. I know the Phillies have probably, with the baseball that they've been playing, entered the NL East into that conversation. But when the low team is 57 and 59 like the Boston Red Sox and still a tough out on a routine basis, I don't know how that's not your answer. Look at the bottom of all these divisions. The Nationals are the worst team in baseball, by the way, 39 and 78. That's free wins for the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies. You don't get that in the American League East for the New York Yankees. You don't get that for the Toronto Blue Jays on a regular basis there. The Yankees the other day, we saw it in a series against the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. Lost that series. I'll tell you this right now. Throw the Yankees out there for 3 games in Washington. As bad as the Yanks are playing, that is not going to be a series defeat there. They're not playing that bad of baseball. That is the difference maker right now, ultimately, I think, when we talk about what is the best division in baseball. And for those odds there to win a World Series, the argument that you obviously have on the AL East side of it is 4 teams in the mix here, including the Yankees and the Blue Jays, which make up 2 of the top 3 teams, really, for a lot of people when you talk about AL contenders.
I would think the American League East has the most depth, but also very top-heavy, as Kevin just alluded to. We have seen a change in that market for the division to win the World Series since yesterday. All 3 divisions, the NL West, the NL East, and the AL East, all tied with the same price at plus 270. The Dodgers, meanwhile, shut out the Brewers in the opener in Milwaukee yesterday for nothing. LA has won 13 of its last 14 games after having a 12-game win streak snapped against the Royals, but some pessimism around LA. Walker Buehler will be having elbow surgery, and he is out for the rest of this year, a key component for the Dodgers in what was their hopeful postseason run. Still a lot of depth in that starting rotation, but that was their ace. We go to the NFL up next. Second-year quarterback conversation. Stay with us.
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. 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 Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the bet slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sportsbooks. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all three major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy, DFS, and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
Diamond Bets.
Fernando Tatis Jr. getting popped for a PED suspension for 80 games. Now, I know performance-enhancing drugs are something that, even here at the network, they encourage us, especially myself. They say, please, can you enhance your performance just a little bit more, Joe? This year, it's not going to happen next year for a good chunk of the season. And guess what? This is more important now that you added Juan Soto. So obviously this news rocked Major League Baseball.
Only on Sports Grid. Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
If we're going to treat everyone the same in this world, then he deserves to be treated the same way. A-Rod, McGuire, Sosa. I believe all of his numbers are phony. He's a fake. He is a cheater. He is a user. He is a fraud. He is a steroid guy. All those numbers, those jacked home run totals. He hit a home run every day.
The Sports Grid Network.
In the 2022 NFL Draft, there was a single quarterback selected in the first round. His name is Kenny Pickett. He plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A wonderful debut in preseason week number 1 in the NFL. But in the 2021 NFL Draft, there were 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 20 selections. And now we look at what their optimism seems to be for the 2022 NFL season, their second year in the NFL. A second-year quarterback conversation. Will the leap be earned for those 5 guys? Kevin Walsh and myself, Ben Stevens, discuss it right now based on what we saw in the preseason. And it was a great debut for Trey Lance and the San Francisco 49ers on Friday night against the Green Bay Packers. Trey Lance, Kevin, 4 of 5 through the air, 92 yards, and a touchdown, showing off the big arm and some of the optimism that led the Niners trading all the way up to number 3 in last year's draft to get their guy in Trey Lance. And although he only appeared in 6 games a season ago, he is their quarterback, not Jimmy Garoppolo. He has been shipped out to the side, although not traded yet. Trey Lance is now his time in San Francisco. So let's look at some of those props, Kevin. How do you evaluate Trey Lance heading into year number 2 when we had such a small sample size during his rookie campaign?
Optimism is probably the best word that I can offer up right now, because I don't really have much of a reason not to be. You know, sometimes you get lost in a bubble that you might be in, and on the early line, I got to be honest with you, we've had a lot of fun laughing at the 49ers, and they've deserved every bit of it. The mishandling of this Jimmy, or at least the lying to themselves over this Jimmy Garoppolo situation, paired with the drafting of Trey Lance, who didn't have the ability to take the job off of Garoppolo, felt like they were in a bad spot. And then heading into the weekend, I had a minor epiphany when I realized that in what world does Kyle Shanahan not have the ability to have Trey Lance replicate at minimum what Jimmy Garoppolo was bringing to the table and have this team go over a win total of a 9.5 and probably win this NFC West overall? I think Trey Lance, and we've seen this, is going to be able to hit the layups. But the thing is, the layups for the Niners actually turn into dagger three-point shots. These, hey, listen, that guy's wide open 20 yards down the field, and he walks in for a 75-yard score. We saw it during the regular season, and I know we just saw that during the preseason, and it's the athleticism. Man, if you think it's a nightmare to scheme and prepare against Kyle Shanahan, now you have to, on a week-in, week-out basis, prepare for what Trey Lance can do as an athlete there. I think this Niners offense is going to operate at an incredibly high level. I'm not Trey Lance 40-1 MVP optimistic, but in terms of the Niners being able to be a very good football team, yeah, I feel good about that.
And that is the optimism around San Francisco, Kevin, because you might have some questions, like I do, in terms of backing the Niners, where their odds are for the upcoming year in the NFL, with a second-year quarterback, sure, but a QB that really hasn't played much in the last 2 seasons. And yes, I include 2020 when he was still the quarterback for North Dakota State and did not play because their FCS season was in the spring and he was getting ready for the NFL draft. Take a look at those numbers. A win total on the FanDuel Sportsbook at 9.5. And the over has the juice at -145. Kev, that's a clear indication that's a 10-win football team. And if they're a 10-win football team, go one peg underneath. -225 to make the postseason. That's a virtual guarantee at this point where we stand during training camp in the preseason. And the second best odds, and still a very competitive NFC West division, at +175. Kevin, should the odds on the Niners be as favorable as they are right now, where we stand about to enter year number 2 for Trey Lance?
Again, the funny thing is, if you asked me 6 weeks ago, I think my answer would have been a lot different than it is now. But I have gained confidence around Trey Lance and lost it a little bit in the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams are a little bit disrespected at times in the market. I've found the 2.5 number the Buffalo lays in their building to be a disgrace, but this is what we come to expect from people and their overrating of the Buffalo Bills. But this Stafford elbow is starting to worry me here a little bit. I don't think I'm going to get 17 games out of Stafford. 15 games, maybe. You might think, 15 games, what's the difference? 2 games? We don't think 2 games. Might just be the difference here, considering what was on the line for these teams down the stretch. Just 2 games separating the Rams and the Niners. And by the way, the Cardinals were in between them in that rate. That's how good the NFC West was last year. And I know we think it can, I don't know about replicate that, but be very, very good this coming season. So I think ultimately, this is going to sound bizarre, right? The team that just won the Super Bowl with a Super Bowl winning quarterback, an unproven sophomore, but the health matters. I think I have a little more trust right now in Trey Lance and the Niners than Stafford and the Rams.
See, I still believe in the Rams. I think the Rams are the pick. However, I am slightly concerned around the elbow issues that Matthew Stafford is dealing with. But the Rams won a Super Bowl last year. Yes, they lose Von Miller, but he wasn't necessarily there all year long, and I think they improve with Bobby Wagner on the defensive side of the football, and you add Allen Robinson on the other side of that offense to complement Cooper Kupp. So I still think the Rams got better. Maybe the value's not necessarily there, but plus 125, the Rams the favorites in the NFC West. But Kevin brings up a great point about the optimism around San Francisco. Now, the Niners made the Super Bowl 3 years ago in 2019, ultimately a loss to the Chiefs. They made the NFC Championship game almost on the brink of another Super Bowl appearance last year in 2021 with Jimmy Garoppolo. Not because of Jimmy G, but maybe not in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo as well, because the talent on the roster is that good, both offensively and defensively. And now Deebo Samuel is happy with his contract extension, it seems. And Kyle Shanahan is an offensive mastermind. And when you look at Trey Lance and his stats last year, again, just 6 games played, 2 starts made, 603 passing yards in total, 57.7% completion percentage. But also on the ground, we saw a ton of run packages utilized around Trey Lance and his athletic ability, 168 yards on the ground. So, Kev, the top 3 picks in the 2022 NFL Draft. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Zach Wilson, number 2 for the New York Jets. Trey Lance, number 3 for the San Francisco 49ers. As we just shared, San Fran, 9.5 the win total. The over has the heavy juice at minus 145. Let's make a theoretical match bet here between the top 3 from last year's draft. Who wins more games? Trey Lance and the Niners as a solo entity, or the combined efforts of Trevor Lawrence and the Jags plus Zach Wilson and the New York Jets? Obviously, you add the win totals just based on sheer numbers of the Jets and the Jags. That's 12 as compared to Trey Lance and the Niners at 9.5. They would be the heavily favored side. But, Kev, will the Niners have a better overall year than those 2 other teams, being the Jags and the Jets?
You know, what's funny is I think you'd get a lot of people, though you make a good point about where the number would sit. I think you'd get a lot of people to bet the Niners. I'm high on the Niners. I still would take the combination. I'm low on the Jets. I know I'm probably walking into a real bad trap here, and I'm going to live with it. I am very optimistic about the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am. On the early line, this is way back. Who will be this year's Cincinnati Bengals? And I don't know if I worked myself into a shoot, but my answer was the Jacksonville Jaguars. And there's literally nothing that has happened that has changed it, Ben. Super Bowl winning head coach Doug Peterson. If you think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust, you're not paying attention. He's not. Urban Meyer, listen, Big Ten previews, brother. Certainly no more NFL coaching. That did not work out. The Christian Kirk deal that everybody thought was bad, have we seen how the wide receiver market is shaped out? Not all that bad. Keeping Cam Robinson, signing Brandon Scherf. There is defensive talent here. And the other thing is a vulnerable division in my eyes. The Texans, to me, aren't a real football team. Tannehill's a bad 5 weeks away from being benched for Malik Willis. And Matt Ryan, sorry, but here is the thing. I know everybody thinks, this guy is going to change the Colts, man. How awful Carson Wentz was. 27 touchdowns to 7 picks. Matt Ryan will throw more picks than Carson Wentz did last year, despite the fact that Carson Wentz is the turnover-prone, can't win with him quarterback. So can the Jacksonville Jaguars go 9-8, Ben, and steal this division? I think they can.
It looks like Kevin's buying in on an alternate win total over, where last year I was on the alternate win total under of 4.5 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, because that was fade Urban Meyer at all costs. It's very different this year around. The Jags are 120 to 1 to win the Super Bowl, tied for the 5th longest odds in the entire National Football League. Their win total is 6.5. The Jags won 3 games a season ago. In 2020, the Bengals won 4 games. Their 2021 win total was 6.5. Their odds in the preseason win a Super Bowl, 120 to 1, the 3rd longest in the National Football League. Just saying, comparison with a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow taking a big leap, and the same for Trevor Lawrence, hopefully expected. You mentioned a couple former Eagles, Kevin Walsh, the head coach, in Doug Peterson, and a former quarterback in Carson Wentz. Now the Eagles, in 2022, a 9.5 win total for Philadelphia. The second best odds to win the NFC East. And Jalen Hurts, a perfect preseason debut in his one drive, 6 of 6, 80 yards, and a tutty. How do you feel about your Birds this year, Kev?
Optimistic, and for a while I was trying to hide from that, but it's actually a lot more than optimistic. The Birds, 17 games, are favored in 13 of those football games. Do you know how many games that they are a dog by more than a field goal? 0 of those games. The Eagles' schedule lines up. They got better everywhere. Nick Sirianni is much better than some of his counterparts, like Brandon Staley, that absolute fraud. The Philadelphia Eagles are set up for a monster season here. Monster season.
According to New Sports Grid member Warren Sharp and his win total projections, Philly, one of the easiest schedules in the league. College football next.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
People are going to the betting window
Betting
and
above
betting
the
them now
rim.
before the trade takes place.
How
Diamond
dare they
bets.
do what's fiscally responsible? See how it plays out. Buffalo's going all in right
Football
now. They
full
need
circle.
all their chips in the middle of the table. It's do or die for them.
And Godwin being out, they've had a little bit of a shakeup.
In-game live all access.
You could take the points. You could take the money line. And
we had to go to San Jose, too. Maybe a small play on San Jose. I'm going to go both underdogs here. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Wow. In-game
Phillies
live.
here,
Prime
over minus
time.
128. You do have to lay a little bit of wood here, Donnie, but I think against Patrick Corbin.
But, boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
Diamond bets.
Dodgers heading into the weekend, minus 160. This morning, when you wake up bright and early and you get the crust out of your eye, it's plus 155. The Mets were plus 220 after Jacob deGrom's 1-0 win yesterday, plus 200. So the Mets are getting ever closer here, my friend, to this National League number. It's a 3-team race for the National League crown. It's the Dodgers, it's the Mets, it's the Braves. What's fascinating to me is that the Brewers are still plus 1,400 and the Cardinals are plus 15.
Only on Sports Grid. Pharrell, coast to coast.
10 years ago, you couldn't even touch California. Now, Prop 26 is one that allows Indian gaming on Indian lands and 4 casinos. Prop 27, everywhere. And needless to say, FanDuel, DraftKings, all the big boys are supporting Prop 27, including Major League Baseball. Prediction is it passes in a landslide, and they creatively say...
The Sports Grid Network.
It's preseason poll season, people. That's a little bit of alliteration for you as we welcome you back to a tangy Tuesday, live right here on the morning after on Sports Grid. The AP Top 25 in the preseason released yesterday. We'll give you our reactions to that Top 25 poll before we play pollster ourselves, and we give you the debut of the preseason, Ben's Top 10 for college football in 2022. Now, Kevin Walsh is the inventor of Tangy Tuesday. That started around the NBA playoffs, giving you our thoughts on the National Basketball Association. It got tangy in times past. It will get tangier here as I give you my top 10 and Kevin reacts live and in color on your television screens or on Sirius XM channel 159 on those radio airwaves. Kev, first, let's go through the AP Top 25 and our takeaways from that poll being released yesterday. The Associated Press poll is a very, very big deal because we use these rankings until the college football playoff comes out with their first rankings in the middle of November. So if you see a top 25 matchup, it is based off the AP poll. We have the same 4 teams at the top that we did for the coaches poll. In fact, the same 5 teams. Alabama number 1, Ohio State second, Georgia number 3, Clemson at 4th, and Notre Dame rounds out the top 5. Kev, in fact, the top 10 teams are all the same teams, just a slight reshuffling of the order from the coaches poll to the AP poll because A&M is number 6, Utah is 7th, Michigan 8th, Oklahoma 9, and Baylor rounds out the top 10. In the coaches poll, Michigan is 6, A&M is 7, and Utah is number 8. Let's start with the top 10, Kev, and then dive our way through the rest of this poll. Anything stand out to you in a big way?
I was surprised to see Notre Dame again check in at 5. I think that Notre Dame is being treated kinder than I really had anticipated here. I half-jokingly think that somebody's paid somebody to make sure that Ohio State Notre Dame is a top 5 matchup as opposed to a top 10 matchup or a top 15 matchup or something of the nature. Because Marcus Freeman year 1, some losses that have kind of, been throughout the program and just the way the schedule lines up here. We'll do a trade system, all right? I will trade for you the acknowledgement, though, because I am the most honest man in all of sports media, that this Notre Dame team is not a top 5 team in the country. But please, everybody in return stop with the join a conference nonsense? At number 2, Ohio State, neutral 25 BYU, home number 4 Clemson, at 14 USC. I mean, they're playing a tougher schedule than the SEC gauntlet that others are running here. Can we please stop with the join a conference thing to slander the fact that they don't play anybody? It's been ridiculous for years now.
They have one of the hardest schedules because they remain independent. The only reason the Fighting Irish need to join a conference is to cash in on the big TV revenue of the conference realignment landscape. If they can't get the $75 million they hope to get from NBC in years upcoming. However, Kev, it is interesting comparing Notre Dame, who remained at number 5 in both the coaches and the AP poll. The Irish's win total is 8.5. The over has the juice at -140. The win totals for the other 4 teams in the top 4. Alabama, 10.5. The over is juiced at greater than $2. It's the same exact thing for Georgia. Ohio State's win total is 11. The over is juiced at -130. If that over cashes, as the juice indicates, that's a perfect unbeaten season for the Buckeyes. And even Clemson has a win total of 10.5, although the under has the juice at -125. So Notre Dame is at 8.5, and when you compare the national championship odds, there's a stark difference as well. The top 4 in the coaches and the AP poll are also the top 4 teams from the odds perspective of winning a college football playoff national championship. Alabama remains the favorite, +180. Ohio State, the second best price, 3-1. Georgia, +350. And Clemson rounds out the top 4 at +800. Again, 4 is a magic number in college football because 4 teams make it to the college football playoff. 6 is a very important number as well, Kevin Walsh, because for just one time in the last 11 years, deciding a national champion in college football, it has come outside the AP top 6 in the preseason poll. It was 2013 when Florida State won a national championship after beginning the year ranked number 11 in that preseason AP top 25. In the 8-year history of the college football playoff, all 8 college football playoff national title winners have been ranked within the top 6 of the preseason AP poll. That's why a preseason poll still carries some water. But Kevin, let's continue to dive through the top 25. Because one thing that stands out to me is the lack of Texas. Texas was ranked number 18 in the coaches poll, and the Longhorns earned some humor because they received a single first place vote in the coaches poll. You'd have to find your way through the AP top 25, and you wouldn't even see Texas in the poll because the Longhorns are unranked in the receiving votes category. And Texas is tied for the 10th best odds right now to win a title at 80-1. What a span of a week for Texas football, Kevin. Number 18, a single first place vote in the coaches poll, unranked in the AP. A very big difference for the Texas Longhorns, according to those preseason polls.
Now, I want to try and say that it is more ridiculous to have them outside of the top 25 than give them a first-place vote. Yeah. That is not true. I will say this, though. I really believe Texas being outside of the top 25 is ridiculous. Again, I know the odds and the polls are not always going to be the same, but this team is in front of, with a bit of a gap, Oklahoma State and Baylor. And this is where we start to get into, well, what have you done for me lately? What did you do for me last year? One team in Texas couldn't handle Kansas, like some potential future Heisman winners were able to in a gutsy performance on the road. Now, Baylor, right? I understand they had themselves
Can't keep bringing that up. The guy plays for the Trojans now. Stop bringing it up. Go ahead.
I mean, listen. No, it's only. I mean, listen. Wait till you see some of the gutsy performances he pulls out in the Pac-12. Baylor, I get you into the Big 12 title. Listen, brother, and he'll be down to that foxhole, and he'll be ready to roll. Don't worry about it. Oklahoma State was this close to going to the college football playoff. I appreciate that. But Cincinnati's down here at 23, right? So we are projecting. This is not – we could have just copy and pasted the final rankings if that's what we were trying to do. Texas belongs inside the top 25. You know, this is a team last year, Ben, that – had double-digit leads in the third quarter against these teams. The OUs, the Baylors, the Oklahoma States. They couldn't close the door. And the season then unraveled. And it's easy to see how that could unravel. But my takeaway from that is not, oh, Sark doesn't know how to win a football game. It's he's on the cusp. And I do think that this Texas team, they probably should have scheduled Alabama. We can talk about that another time. But this Texas team is on the cusp, I think, of not full Texas is back, but I think a pretty good year.
The fact the Longhorns weren't ranked in the AP Top 25 is only further indication it was, in fact, Nick Saban who voted for Texas at number 1 last week in the coaches poll to make the billing for the second full Saturday of college football in Austin, September 10th, between Texas and Alabama. Right now, the Tide, a 15-point favorite, feel like it had a little bit more gusto. All right, enough of this about the AP poll. It's time for the true preseason poll. That would be Ben's top 10 here on the morning after on Sports Grid. Kev, I will go from bottom to top. I think you'll be surprised to see who I have ranked number 10 in the country. It's a team that I am not nearly as optimistic on as the public and the odds might be. The USC Trojans check in at number 10 in my top 10. NC State is number 9 because I am a big believer in the Wolfpack, Devin Leary, head coach Dave Dorn, and what they might be able to do in the ACC this year. Some of the most returning production in all of college football at near 86% back in 2022. Oklahoma is number 8, not a big change from the AP poll. Notre Dame in my poll, Kevin, is at number 7, where I thought we would see them in the AP. Texas A&M is number 6, same exact poll in the Associated Press as well. I have Utah at number 5 because the Utes are my pick to win a Pac-12 championship and a potential team to make the college football playoff. And the top 4 are the same teams, but Kevin, I have to make a little bit of a change here. Otherwise, it would just look like chalk. I have Ohio State winning a national championship. I have said that I expect the Buckeyes to be the best scoring offense in college football, at least averaging at bare minimum 38 points per game. And I believe Ohio State's defense will be a lot better this year around. So Ohio State is the number 1 team in the country in my mind. Alabama is number 2. The reigning title winners in Georgia, number 3. And Clemson, because I think Clemson will have a defense very similar to what we saw out of UGA a season ago, checks in at number 4. Now, Kevin Walsh, your reaction to my top 10.
So the thing is, you get USC in the top 10. We're all good there. I told you that I don't need Notre Dame at 5. I actually still think 7 is a nice position to put them. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens when they lose to Ohio State, how far back they ultimately fall there, considering what is expected of them. There's one thing that stands out to me above everything else. And part of me wants to hammer on the Utah thing. We'll leave that be for now. There's a lot of season to go as it pertains to this Pac-12. We are going to be the people that bring juice to the Pac-12. People act like that conference does not exist. If I'm remembering my conferences, I know teams have moved quite a bit here, Ben. Just one Big Ten team in the top 10 in Big Ten Ben's top 10. That means the Michigan Wolverines not catching the eye at all here for you. What's the word, my friend, on that?
I'm glad you caught that, Kevin Walsh. I was not sure if your astute eye, although it is astute, would have caught the lack of the Wolverines in my top 10. Michigan ranked 6th in the coaches poll, 8th in the AP, or excuse me, 7th in the AP top 25. No, 8th, 7th, right? 7th, 8th. I got it. 8th in the AP top 25. Just trust your gut there, Stevens. I am not nearly as optimistic about Michigan entering 2022. You might ask why. Ben, they won the Big Ten title last year for the first time under Jim Harbaugh. In his 7 years on campus, they finally got past the team in Ohio State. Well, Jim Harbaugh doesn't want to be the head coach of Michigan. He wanted to be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And he didn't get an offer, so he's back in Ann Arbor, and they try to make it seem like here's the alum back leading his program in 2022. But it wasn't just that, Kev. It pissed off their offensive coordinator, Josh Gaddis, so much when he thought he would be the head coach. He's no longer on the staff. And oh yeah, Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator that led Michigan to be one of the best defenses in the country a season ago, now coaches for Jim's brother, John Harbaugh, as a member of the Ravens coaching staff. And they lost so much production defensively, not just Aiden Hutchinson, but David Ajabo. Throw in Daxton Hill as well. Offensively, there is a ton of talent returning for Michigan. I believe in that. And I still have Michigan as a top 15 team, just not within my top 10. So yeah, slightly pessimistic on the Wolverines. Kev, we'll do this plenty more times throughout the year. Maybe even on Saturdays for a little program known as College Football Today. Plenty more to come about that in the future. Kevin stays with us for one final segment to hear from you and Fade the Public up next.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart, or TuneIn, or catch us on SiriusXM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour champion, 2017 world number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all 3 major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy, DFS, and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
Diamond Bets.
Fernando Tatis Jr. getting popped for a PED suspension for 80 games. Now, I know performance-enhancing drugs are something that, even here at the network, they encourage us, especially myself. They say, please, can you enhance your performance just a little bit more, Joe? This year, it's not going to happen next year for a good chunk of the season. And guess what? This is more important now that you added Juan Soto. So obviously this news rocked Major League Baseball.
Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
They're not going to start him. So if he comes in, hypothetically, let's say things don't go well and you're at a halfway point, week 8, week 9, you start playing him. I don't believe you can win Rookie of the Year starting halfway through. That kid, Pickens, if they throw him the ball enough, he has looked phenomenally well over any kid I've seen yet.
The Sports Grid Network.
Rounding out our first hour together here on the Morning After, live on this Tuesday on Sports Grid. Thank you for joining us on Sirius XM, channel 159, all across the Spiz Grizz network as well. That's Sports Grid. I am Ben Stevens. Kevin Walsh has been here for most of this opening hour, and we'll get his thoughts on your thoughts on not a second-year quarterback, as we discussed a little bit earlier on in this first hour, but potentially a rookie QB for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's find out what you had to say. Who's going to start week number 1 for the Steelers and fade the public? So, Kevin, the week 1 preseason opener for Pittsburgh, they won 32-25 over the Seattle Seahawks in a quarterback battle and a strong competition where all 3 guys for Pittsburgh looked pretty good. All 3 threw at least 1 touchdown pass. And Mitchell Trubisky, who got the start. Mason Rudolph, the ending of that first half. And then Kenny Pickett, 13 of 15 and 2 touchdowns as well in the entirety of the second half. So who starts week number 1 for the Steelers? Is it Trubisky, Rudolph, or Pickett? Right now, most of the public, nearly 75%, Kev, saying Mitchell Trubisky will be the week 1 starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, although Kenny Pickett at nearly 20%, the second most selected option. Kevin, how do you evaluate what the public had to say?
So I think Trubisky will start. I certainly wouldn't start him, though. I also wouldn't have signed him. And certainly wouldn't have rushed to sign him as well. What the Steelers did, and all right. The thing is, though, it's already worked. I mean, there are some people out there, my co-host, who's out of his mind, and Donnie Rightside, who has described Trubisky as a veteran hand to guide the ship and limit mistakes. That description means you've never watched Mitchell Trubisky. Really what's happening is Don is getting backed into a corner, and I've tried to give him some advice that he probably should stop and jump over to hashtag start Pickett, because that is the right move. But they won't make it.
The Steelers, a 6.5-point underdog against the Cincinnati Bengals, week number 1. Kevin Walsh, as always, thank you for your time. More of the Morning After up next, hour number 2. Stay with us.